Scott Martin, Herb London are here, along with our very own Lauren Simonetti, who's graciously agreed to stick around for all 3 hours. Let's get to you, Scott, first. You know, there are more and more people, Scott, coming out of the woodwork who are naysayers on all of this market stuff, saying time's running out, the stocks are overvalued, and so on. However, here we go again. We're moving higher. What's going to stop this move higher?
I'll tell you, Ashley, I don't think there's much. I mean,
right.
Yes, further delay in the tax reform, that could be a problem. I'll tell you what I'm worried about, though, honestly, is in a few quarters, we're going to have tough comparables with what we've seen this year as far as earnings growth. So that may slow down the growth. But you're right. Stocks are not wickedly expensive, but they're a little pricey. But if you look at interest rates being pretty low, you look at earnings growth, I think stocks are still the best game in town.
What do you say, Herb? I mean, that's pretty much true. Where else do you go? Janet Yellen over the weekend said, look, I don't worry about inflation. I see the economy gaining strength. I can see regular rate hikes. Does that take some of the wind out of the sails?
I think it may, but I think corporate profits look very good.
Yeah.
And on top of it, I think that you're finding that the economy, or at least the people's confidence in the economy, continues to grow. There could be an exogenous event. You don't know what's going to happen with North Korea. You don't know what happens there. It could be something else that happens elsewhere in the world. But other than that, I'm rather bullish on the state of the economy and the state of the stock market. And I think 23,000 is clearly doable this week.
I suddenly feel better. Herb London, I'm feeling bullish because you are. It's very good. All right, let's get to politics now. Mitch McConnell at the White House today, as we said. Tax reform on the list, of course, among a whole other mix of subjects. Chris Steiwalt, Fox News political editor, joins us now. Okay, so how does this meeting go, do you think, Mr. Steiwalt? We'd all love to be that proverbial fly on the wall, but is it genial, or does Mr. Trump lay down the law?
Well, Trump has a genial way of
laying down the law.
Because what he does is, and what he will do to McConnell is, do you want me to make it stop? I can make it stop. All you have to do is give me what I want, because the realization that the Senate Republicans have finally come to is that people don't expect Trump to be able to solve policy problems, and don't punish him when those solutions are not made present. Any other president who had not delivered on core campaign promises by this point and this number of failures, their base would have revolted. But in this case, Trump knows that he has the advantage that as a novice and as somebody who definitely is not somebody who talks about deep grasp of the details, he's not like Obama. He's not like Bill Clinton. He says, you guys figure it out, just quit screwing up. And for a lot of his voters, for most of his voters, that seems to stick.
Mitch McConnell, does he not care for Donald Trump, and is that partly why we're seeing difficulty in getting this agenda?
I never underestimate the personal relationships between people in the Congress and the president.
Right.
On the other hand, I think it's very important to note that if you get a budget approval, which I think is likely, of course, you will get this tax reform bill passed.
By the end of the year?
By the end of the year. And I think Trump will be very, very happy about that. And McConnell's position within the White House might change as a consequence. I think health care, that's over the horizon. Yeah. That's not going to happen immediately. But I do think you're going to see some reform on tax reform.
And if that happens, Scott Martin, then these markets, what, can they get another leg up?
I'll give you a prediction, Ashley. Dow 25,000 if tax reform gets done. Because think about all the money, the trillions that's even sitting overseas in some of the big tech companies. Yeah. That's going to come back stateside. It's going to be reinvested. It's going to create jobs. It's going to go into stock prices.
25. Why not? I mean, we'll just continue to go up and up. Let's get to the next topic. President Trump taking executive action to unravel Obamacare. Herb London, getting rid of those subsidies, which, you know, weren't technically legal in the first place.
They weren't technically legal, and people are always saying, well, the president, of course, is trying to change Obamacare. No, he's trying to be consistent with what Obamacare actually required. And I think that what you're seeing now is the unraveling of Obamacare is very desirable from the point of view of those who have 30 or more employees. They're saying, for the first time, we're getting a little relief. This competitive environment, it was what is desirable. And once you have a situation where individuals can make the case for themselves, the kind of health care they want, and you can actually choose the insurance market you want to be in, that is a very desirable outcome.
Chris, this is interesting to me because you have Donald Trump basically saying, look, Congress holds the purse strings. This should never have happened in the first place, to do the end around, to do the executive order on these subsidies. So it's kind of opposite world, because the Democrats are now crying foul because President Trump is doing what is actually correct.
Well, if the federal government started arranging itself around the ideas of what was constitutionally permissible for the executive branch,
right.
You would need a lot longer show to talk about everything that would have to get undone and redone.
True.
The practical reality here, and the reason that tax reform won't take place until next year, is that the stuff that has to pass this year includes a continuing resolution, an omnibus spending package by the end of December to keep the government functioning into next year, and something about Obamacare. The president has created a very serious cliffhanger here for millions of Americans in a belief that he can force Democrats to the negotiating table to try to get some conservative reforms put into Obamacare before these subsidies run out. Because I promise you that the Republicans know that if they are the ones who say, yep, we are cutting off these payments to people who were, by the way, victims of Obamacare in the first place. These are the people who lost their doctors. These are the people who lost their health insurance policies. They were marooned in Obamacare. With the reforms that Trump's already put in, their premiums are going to go up even more. The government's going to do something with these people, and if they don't, the Republicans will deservedly get a shellacking in midterms.
I want to get a business angle on this, Scott Martin. With so much uncertainty, to Chris's point on all these scenarios, would you touch the insurance?
Actually, we cut our exposure to health. That was a little too early, but I'll tell you, healthcare is going to be a minefield, I think, going forward for the points that Chris pointed out there. And I'll tell you what else makes me a little nervous is the subsidy issue, because, I mean, you're going to have to give something to these insurers and these healthcare companies because they need it. So depending on how that, I guess, comes out, you're probably going to see the healthcare stocks rebound, but I wouldn't get into them right now. I'd avoid them.
Too much uncertainty. All right. Chris and Scott, thank you so much, guys, for joining us on this Monday. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Want to get a